Hello, guys. Welcome to Vamily Show Season 2, Episode 3. And today I've got country music star Jeremy Parsons. But after going over your stuff, I was really impressed that some of the conversations you had with people about um, just getting out there and doing it. And the one song you have, Making It Up As You Go. That one, after hearing you talk to people and then hearing that song, it put it in a little different context, which was cool.
Yeah, it's pretty much the line that I follow through my life. It's like sometimes it'll curve left, and I was like, well, I guess I'm going left.
Hmm.
It's I don't know. It's the mindset. I think I get it from my dad. He's a very like chill person, and like it is what it is. I'm a bit more intense. I think a lot of people who are creators are a bit more intense in a way because they're
Yeah,
just more passionate people in general. But yeah, I've always liked looking at like we have some of my least favorite people I've encountered in my life are people that think that they can control almost anything.
yeah,
My best friends are those people who usually just realize it's like, man, we're all kind of flying around in the wind.
yeah, yeah. That line in there too, when you said you don't know what you don't need to know,
Yeah,
it just made me laugh. It made me think because that's one of the things I've heard people say. If you wanna make God laugh, tell him that you have a plan.
yeah, that would that exactly. I mean, that's the point. It's like the first thing I think growth or like any like moving forward in life, it comes with first admitting that that you have to surrender that control in a way. Like still obviously like take control of things that happen in your life, but um yeah, we don't know what we don't know. Like, why waste time on that? You're gonna figure it out as you go anyway. Or you're
Yeah.
not. I mean, I guess it's a
Or you're
50-50
not,
chance.
yeah. One way or the other,
Yeah, yeah.
for sure. And I want to know because I think I read right that you had some of your songs in films. Um, have you ever also wanted to be in the films like Jerry Reed and Chris Christopherson? They were in the truck driving movies. Have you ever thought about being in a movie and having your songs in it?
Man, it would be awesome. I know, like Ryan Bingham and a few other like Texas country Americana guys have. I think he was in Yellowstone.
Hmm.
There's been a lot of guys who've crossed over. Man, I don't know. I don't consider myself a good actor. It's always been like my least favorite part of every music video, specifically when I have to be dramatic. Like I'm not good at that. If you need a comedy guy to be ridiculous for a couple seconds, like I'm your man.
Right.
So if the role was right, I would totally do it. Like one of the most impressive movies I think for me as far as like country star to actor and then just kind of like really went chill after that was George Strait in Pure Country.
Hmm.
Like it's not Gone with the Wind. It's not like this classic tale, but like he stayed with it. He didn't cross over his boundary. Like he
Right.
didn't try to do more than he could. Like try to do some really dramatic, ridiculous scene where you have to fake cry or something. It was like
Right.
it's like man, stop it. Like it was like when Channing Tatum was trying to be a serious actor. I was like, you're killing me, man. You're such a funny
Yeah.
dude. Just be a funny dude.
Yeah. 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 It must be hard for them though too, because it would kind of be like if you were forced to play the same type of music for the rest of your life to get typecast in that too. That's probably like they don't even care if it goes bad just because they want to do something different.
Oh, absolutely. It's one of those. Some people actually start bad and then find their calling like almost midway through it. Um, that's actually how I keep bringing him up, but that's actually how I feel about Channing Tatum. I was like, man, I didn't like you as like this serious like chick flick guy, but like as soon as he did 21 Jump Street, I was like, I get it now. I totally get
Right.
it. You're a funny dude, and they you just because you're good looking, they tried to make you like this dramatic guy. But that's like me. Like it's like I don't have a Celine Dion-esque voice. I don't go out and sing Celine Dion songs.
Right.
Like
Right.
I'm a country dude. I stay country, so that's just like usually what it is. Like you gotta
Yeah.
find your kind of find your zone and stay in it.
Yeah. I used to when I would go out and sing karaoke, and I hosted it for a little while too. When I first was going out, I would sing songs that I'd love to sing, and I had to learn. Well, no, your voice can sing songs, but you have to learn what songs you can sing. It's kind of like that, where you
Oh,
there might be songs that you
absolutely.
like. Like I'm sure I was reading your bio there, and I was going to ask you too about how it feels to like be listening to George Jones music, and then one day you're opening for him. Because I know when I played guitar when I was younger, you have those dreams of like playing with a huge band or whatever. So how does that feel?
I
Like
that's
being a
something.
person there.
Yeah, it's weird because it never was a I do this because I love it.
Mm,
And that's what's so funny. Like I see so many people. It's not funny. That's probably not a good word, but uh, it's interesting to me. Let's use interesting. It's very broad. Uh,
right.
that like I never thought I'd get there. Like I
Right.
never thought I'd see the day. It never occurred to me. Like I never even thought to think of it. Like I
Right.
just like it just happened, and I was like, kind of walked out on the stage, and it's the like the nicest stage I've ever played in the sense that like every time you looked up, there was a different part of the crowd in front of you. It was a circular
That's
rotating
crazy.
stage. Oh, it's nuts. Like I'm so used to doing my thing and being in the same spot. But like
Right.
this was, I was like, good God, it's like you could get seasick up here if this went a little bit faster.
Right.
But if you like looked down to play a solo and you looked up, you were in front of a whole new audience. It was cool in so many ways, and that I was, man, I don't even know if I was 21 yet when I did that. I was somewhere in 2021. Uh, but it was probably the moment where I was like, man, I could do this till I die. I mean, other than the
Right.
first time I got up there at a writer's night, and I was like, what is this feeling, man? Like you can't get that with any type of drug. I don't care what anyone says. It's just serotonin and adrenaline like dancing together, and then like everyone else is feeling the same thing too, but like on that level in a George Jones crowd, it's like it was intense. Like I don't really get nervous. I get excited. I think everyone, it can get kind of like the waters can get kind of muddy as far as
Hmm.
defining that goes. But like with
Yeah.
me, it just feels like straight excitement. We all
Right.
like if you want to do a good job, you're going to be nervous anyway. And it's if you don't want to do a good job, then why are you even doing that job in the first place? But
Right. Right.
but like it's just excitement. It was like I have to try to get a crowd that's in love with George Jones to pay attention to me for 40 minutes, and I think that's how a lot of people look at it. But when I went up there, I was like, they're here to see George Jones. I'm just going to do my thing and see what happens. Like and
Right.
it still some of those people still follow me to this day. That I got gigs from that gig. It was just cool. I mean, he and Nancy were so nice, and it was just cool to get to have a story with him. Especially now, you never know when people are gonna go, and he's gone
Yeah.
now.
Yeah.
Um, and a lot of people, like I got to play with Jim Ed Brown and a lot of those old Opry guys back in the day too, before they passed, and it's just it's cool. It's fun it's crazy because I still feel like I'm at the front of my career, but like looking
Right.
back, talking about this, it's weirdly nostalgic. I was like, you don't really think about how much you've done. I guess it's because that's good though. Like that means that I
Right.
you just want to keep doing more. Like let's
Yeah.
just keep
Yeah.
doing it. Yeah,
Yeah. Just keep getting excited about it every day.
yeah,
Um,
exactly.
yeah. Oh, and good to hear, Van Vita Travels, that you got your hoodie and Rally Creative Travel say they used to love George Jones, the opossum.
Yeah, but well, they called it. So that's the best part about that is that he like this says a lot about an artist. If they like, I think that you can't take your art too seriously.
Hmm.
And that was proof that he didn't, because they were literally that he got that nickname because they were making fun of the way that he looked with his crew cut back in the day. They said
Right.
he looked like a possum. I was like, what an awesome dude. I wonder how much he actually hated that, but realized that like how important a nickname that sticks, that people can identify you in a different way. Like that's a big deal when the world knows you by your actual name, and then they all
Right.
also know you as your like moniker like that. That's so cool. Like,
Besides, which is kind of funny for people to say that when it's like, open up your photo album. I bet you there's a picture of a haircut you don't like in there,
oh,
and he just decided to go with it and say, I don't care what you guys are saying.
oh, absolutely, man. Well, I mean, he's from Texas. Like it was probably
Yeah.
nice to have a crew cut in the summertime. You know, it's that
Yeah.
easy breezy like wind going down the sides.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. For sure, man. Um, you've been doing this for uh over 10 years now, um, playing music. Um, I'm kind of wondering because I've written a couple songs before, and I always find it crazy. Like the ones that are the most catchy, at least in my ear and other people's ears that I've written, are ones that I've written like they just come to me. Like all of it's come pretty much at the same time. Have you found the
Yeah.
same thing with any of the ones you've written?
Yeah, and I think it's it. When I was when I first started doing it, it was about like it was kind of a numbers game. It's and I think as I progressed, it became more about the song. But like that, there was times where it was like the whole song was just there. I just had to get it on paper in time
Hmm.
before it disappeared, because it's just like, it's almost like, oh, I got a song idea, squirrel. But
Right.
but and I think a lot of people are like that. It's why it's almost one of those, you got to keep like a dry erase board like by the shower or something, or like, so you can reach out and no, well, it'd be like scary to get your phone wet or something unless you got one of those
Oh yeah.
cases. But
No, I'm old school. I do it like this. So when I
yeah,
take notes, I
yeah.
just jot it down. So
Yeah,
yeah,
I bounce back and forth between needing to like hold a notepad, and just because like I like that. That's like it's fun sometimes just to switch it up too. It keeps
yeah,
your like flow going. If you feel like you got a block too, I like to find different platforms.
yeah.
But yeah, like sometimes it comes out. I think Hank Williams Sr. used to say like if you can't write a song in 20 minutes, it's not worth writing. I
Right.
like that. I don't always agree with that. I love Hank Sr. Like I'm glad it was always just so easy for him. I but the like I think at a certain point it's gotten more important to me to really write what I feel I need to write in that moment. And it's
Right.
not almost up to me at a point. It's up to the song. If the song wants to be finished in that amount of time, like I'll finish it. Like that's just how I have to look at it, because you get writer's blocks, or like the second verse might not feel as strong as the first verse, and you really don't want to lose people then. Like that's when you're supposed to really have hooked them
Yeah.
to get him to that bridge. And if that second verse needs to wait to be written so it can equal up to the rest to the front half of the song, then so be it. Like it's worth it to do. It's like almost like trying to create something and then like at the last minute being so excited about creating it that you like kind of don't do a good job. It was like, what's the point of taking this long to create something if you're not going to create something that's sustainable?
Right. Right.
Yeah.
And that's the hardest part is the sustainability part. Sometimes like
Oh,
you have to
absolutely.
be
Yeah.
smart about it and learn to pace yourself for sure.
Well, and even then, it's like, half this, if 20 people like it, it's cool. Like, but
Yeah.
like, not everyone's gonna like it anyway. So it's kind of like, is it good enough for you? That's the
Yeah.
ultimate test. Like, if after I write a song, I'll put it in headphones and go for a walk, and if I want to hear it, if I want to keep hearing it, uh, which is a big deal because no one really likes going back and listening to their voice again. I think that's
Right.
the hardest part is like getting over yourself. Like if someone catches me right now, this is going to be weird. It was like, no, this is like a test session. I have an excuse for this. But yeah, if you want to hear it again, then that's a good sign. It's like, all right, I think I did it. Like if I don't be, I like sometimes you'll go listen, you're like I could use a different word there that could sound more intelligent or just flow better.
Hmm.
But yeah, the whole process is great.
Yep.
And it's so therapeutic. Like if you do it because you're like, oh man, I feel like I got a blockage or something. You know, I got something I need to get out. You know, it's like
Yeah.
it's a musical like a musical Heimlich maneuver.
Yeah. Well, I tell people that, um, you know, if you share your stuff out there, it you're nervous about what people are going to say, but afterwards, you feel like relief. Like there's not this you like that little demon's not there anymore. And so I'm kind of wondering like what songs have like had the best relief for you that you've written.
I think honestly so I have two albums that are out and I have a third that's gonna come out January 2021. I think the release of the second record, the entire second record was a complete relief for me. It brought in a new fan base for me because the first record was very strictly traditional, because that's what I was very much rooted in that, and you know didn't really everyone had told me I had the voice for it, and so I put
Hmm.
myself in that box based on what other people had said about me. And I moved to Nashville. I was there for 10 years, and in that time I felt like a growth, and at one point I wanted to start trying to push myself vocally, and it leaded to me like getting to do some demos and stuff like that. It was really cool, but I was nervous about that second release because it was so different from the first. I went from this
Hmm.
traditional crowd, and you know, if you know anything about like any traditional market, like the fans are very, they want one specific thing and nothing different.
Oh,
Is it?
I'm
Yeah.
a Metallica fan, so
Oh,
I know
exactly.
all
So,
about that. I like
so
all
it's
their stuff though because I changed in life. Everybody changes. I enjoy the fact that they change their stuff over time.
yeah, exactly. It's about growth, and like if you're a fan of the artist or the band or whatever, then it's like you're on that journey with them, and they're not excluding
Hmm.
you. Like they release the projects to include you on their journey. Uh, So but like you know what I'm saying then. So it was very
Yeah.
scary to shift from like technically I was still in the same genre. I was still considered Americana when I was doing the traditional country stuff. It all kind of
Right.
bleeds together, folk Americana, that whole thing. And so the transfer wasn't genre specific as far as a jump goes, but to the listeners' ears, there was a few people that came forward, and I kind of make a record. It's you know the record is just like my greatest hits of that time, and it doesn't have to have all like one specific set sound. Like it's not, there's going to be a rockin' song on there, there's going to be a folky song, it's going to be a
Hmm.
country song, there's going to be a singer songwriter song. Like I like the, it's basically just a borrowed idea from a bunch of other artists, more specifically Tom Petty. Like if you listen to a
Right.
Tom Petty record, it would go from like, you know, Into the Great Wide Open, which has some like heavy licks, to like some like Don't Fade on Me or something, some very like dark folk, like just acoustic guitar driven stuff. And like he just, each song like had its own thing. It catered to the song, and all the songs were on the record, and that's what it was. It was a record. Um, but I
Right.
like that, and that's how I think I'm gonna create from here on out. Like it's uh and you know we're always inspired by like what we're listening to and stuff, so it's I don't know, it's kind of it's scary to branch out, but it doesn't feel worth it to like just keep yourself stuffed in that little box that everybody wants you to be in.
Right.
Because it's, if you're not doing what you want to do with the thing that you love doing, like you're not really feeding your soul correctly. Like you've got part of the strategy and formula down, but you're not going all the way with it. So but that release was scary for me, and then a huge relief to see how well received it was. And like that's my most spins to date on any project. And the first project was technically more successful, but the second one is my favorite. And this third that I'm about to release in January, I'm currently putting out the singles for it, is hands down the greatest thing that I've ever made and got to be a part of making within a studio. It's just I was listening to the masters the other day when I went for a walk, and it was like I could almost cry. Like I'm so ready for everyone to hear it in a way
Hmm.
that like it's cool to have self-control, but I wish I could just like put it out right now. But yeah,
Right.
January 2021 it'll be cool.
That would be awesome. And I got your Spotify links and stuff running for that, and iTunes. Um, and I kind of want to like I realized something because when I listen to your voice, I your voice to me was like a mix of Willie Nelson, Gordon Lightfoot, a little Brooks and Dunn, um, like a mixture of all those voices together. But
That's cool.
when I was listening to you talk, you're when your speaking voice is dead on for Kurt Cobain. Like if
Is it
you put
really?
yeah, if you put his voice and your voice side by side doing an interview, you should listen, man. Like the intonations, everything is like really, really similar.
Oh man, that's crazy. I've never heard that. I got to check that out.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
It was it was something that I noticed. And then the Good Old Days song, I was listening to that and it reminded me because I kind of like to know where the stories of songs come from. And for that song, it reminded me of being like at a family reunion and listening to everybody tell their stories and all that kind of stuff, which I'm happy I got the opportunity to do because they're not around anymore to ask those stories. So I'm happy that I got to listen to them when I got older. Um, so what kind of inspired that song?
Yeah, I really love that you said that, because that song was written, that song was channeled with pure nostalgia. That's what that was. And it's funny you say family reunion, because it's that song started really cool moment. Like these are the moments you love talking about as a songwriter.
Yeah,
Like like where you got that, where the lightning hits you, I guess is a good way to
yeah,
put it.
yeah.
We were in a hardware store in a small town outside of Memphis, where my parents are originally from. My family in general is originally from, called Somerville, Tennessee. And we walked in and we were looking for a part for a house. And we were at the cash register, and I was, being a dude in his 20s, just on his phone, or I don't know what
Mm-hmm.
I was doing, Facebook or whatever distracts us these days. Uh, and I heard a guy behind the counter, and he was nostalgically talking about picking cotton. Like it was like the greatest thing that he'd ever done. And
Right.
I was like, I just pocketed my phone and crossed my arms and was like, "What's happening right now?" I was like, it's like I heard, I've listened to my nephew complain about taking the trash out, and this guy's being nostalgic about picking cotton, like
Right.
a chore that at one time people were forced to do.
Right.
And it really it got me. Like I'd listened to the dude however long it took Dad to check out, which was entirely too long, as it always is. But he he just was reliving. He was like, "Man, yeah, me and my brother and my dad, we'd go out there, we'd start at like before the sun came up, and we'd finish it as it was going down." And the dude like never broke a smile when he was talking about it. I was like, at that time in his life, he probably hated that.
Mm-hmm.
But like here we
Yep.
are 30 plus years later, and this dude is like beaming talking
Yeah.
about this. Just as like I'm sure like what was someone at your family reunion like telling an old war story or like a
Yeah.
story of friends or how they met their wife or like it's cool. Like it stopped me and something was like, "Hey man, you got to pay attention to this." I'm sure glad it did cuz I love that song. That's one of my favorite songs I've ever written. It's fun to play. It's easy to play. Like I love the flow of it. I love the message of it. Like the fact that looking back, the verses are very much about looking back and nostalgia, as I said.
Yeah.
But the concept of the song is like if you don't have that moment yet, as far as like if you're listening to this and you don't have that moment, like that means that you're going to find it still. So that's something to look forward to.
Yeah.
Like when I wrote that line, man, I'm looking forward to looking back on things. I was like, when you have like a songwriter moment where you're like,
Yeah, when you have that little, you come up with
yeah,
that
yeah,
little line or whatever.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. You just gotta like get up and be proud of yourself for a second. I was like, I'm not a cocky. I'd say I'm confident, but I'm not cocky. But I have moments where I just have to be like, I deserve to like, make myself a cup of coffee or something, right? I should reward myself for
Right.
letting my brain come up with that line. Cause I love that. Every time I sing it, I get excited about that line. And but it's true. Like
Hmm.
I like twisting the words like that, but also saying something that to me, like if I heard someone else say it, I would be like, wow, that's a great line. Like I'm
Right.
probably
Right.
gonna steal that.
Right. And you're
But
and
it,
you're you're tickled by it too. You know, your brain can come up with something like that. Like that's,
yeah,
you know,
yeah, it's I mean, I don't think I'm an idiot but
right.
I don't think I'm the smartest person that ever lived. But so
Right.
like, I think it's a good even as far as being a person goes. That leaves
Yeah.
that leaves room for error, like room for growth and also like when you do nail something like that, you should be able to say it's like, "Thank you. I'd
Yeah.
I'd like to thank the Academy of me, the
Yeah.
Academy."
Yeah. Yeah. The Academy. I like that one. I like that one for sure. Um, um, I listened to Decide, and for that, it came across as a song about a moment in time, and how each decision that you make at different moments in time can send your life in different directions.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, it's almost like that the whole butterfly effect thing of like every footprint. Uh which is cool. That song that's another you're picking really good ones. It's interesting. I could tell that you probably write like a very similar way to how those songs came about. I got off a
Yeah.
phone call with the person who really made me mad. And
Hmm.
I don't like being mad because I spent a lot of my teenage years being mad, and I don't want to do that. Um, when I get mad, my thing is, and you've heard me say it a lot in this interview, I go for walks, or when I need to focus, I have to get away from like everything that could be a distraction, and I put myself into a different element, put on headphones. Uh, in this situation, I was in Montana doing a show, and I was in the hotel room and got off a phone call. It was probably, as far as transitions go in life, this was probably one of the lowest points for me as far as like I don't know what I'm going to do next. My manager had passed away, my deal had expired. My mom had left my dad after 40 years of marriage. Like it was one of those when it rains it pours moments, and it's not like a
Right.
boo-hoo cry for me thing. It happens to us all. Like it's happening to everybody right now everywhere it seems.
Right. Right.
but it's part of life. It is part of life. Like we are presented with these things, and we make it through. We probably grow from them. If not, we learn something. It's all happening for that reason, I think. But I'd gotten off a phone call, and I was like, man, I got to get out of this hotel room. I'm gonna go for a walk. And we had the show later that night, It was just me and my guitar player, and I found this old abandoned railway track like a mile or so from the hotel, and I just jumped on it, started walking it. You could tell it hadn't been used, and like some of the rails were off, so I was like not worried about getting hit by a train. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
and I started walking, and that's where the opening line of this. I walked across ties with these old abandoned rails, thinking
Right.
about the stories they could tell. And I had the line, but I had left my phone in the hotel room to charge, so I had no pen, like I couldn't write on my skin, and like I just walk and I'm like just repeating the line over and over again in my head, hoping I can remember it. And out of nowhere, I come up on a pharmacy. Like it's in like some little like wooded shopping center that's just
Wow.
would be in the middle of Montana somewhere in the small town, like really like fairly close to the hotel. And I run in there and I like have my wallet, thank goodness. I buy a notepad and a pen and just start writing that song on the abandoned rails. But it was exactly what I needed to say in that moment,
Mm-hmm.
which is so good. And it's like I think it's something that like it's something I've said to people since I wrote the song. So it's cool that like it was therapy for me, but I can also translate it to other people when they go through stuff in their life. And I think that's what I've always liked about the people that I've listened to. And I'm glad that I'm glad that I have that as an outlet. Like it's just so nice. It's a real gift.
Right. Right. It is like when I was first hearing people saying, "I wish you could that they could do whatever it is that I'm doing." It made you appreciate what you're doing a lot more. And
Oh yeah.
and you like you were talking in one interview that you do it for the love of doing it, which I agree. If you don't love doing it, then just get a regular job somewhere because you can hate that, then not be have your soul crushed when you don't have your creative stuff work out.
Absolutely, yeah. If you're gonna hate doing it anyway, you might as well find a terrible job. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
And the song "One of a Kind," that one when you were writing it, it looked like you were trying to write it through the eyes of another person, like writing the lyrics from the eyes of another person.
yeah. I actually that one was. It's almost like I usually try to leave songs like fairly broad. But that was I wrote that the night that John Prine died. uh and I was doing a Facebook live, and so, like my phone just started blowing up, which usually doesn't happen because my friends don't usually bother me when I'm doing those because they know I'm busy.
Right.
But they were literally like, "Hey, dude, give me a call once you get off your Facebook live," or because I love John Prine. Uh, he was such a big inspiration for me. He was just like he was like the George Carlin of like folk or Americana music. He was just such a
Hmm.
weird, like outside the box crazy thinker. Like he said some of the weirdest, coolest stuff I've ever heard in music. And I was just so floored by it, like always. He always delivered too, like whether it was live or like whether he's putting out a new record. It was just always he's just subtle genius. I don't know how else to put it. So fascinated and floored by him. It's like I wanted him to adopt me and all sorts of things. But uh, I was wrecked when that happened, and that literally I could feel that it was almost like that song came straight from like my broken heart. Like death happens and it's natural, but he died from coronavirus stuff, which
Right.
is very upsetting. Knowing that if this wouldn't have happened, like we could have had him for maybe 5 more years or something.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, that literally it just came out of me. I wanted to tell if I had met him in person, what would I want to say to someone while not overwhelming them at the same time? It's like he made me believe that my crazy was fine. He showed what it was to be one of a kind.
Right.
Um, and so I kind of wrote that from my perspective, but like what I thought that And I didn't mean to overstep as a fan, of course, but like it's kind of what I thought that everyone that I talked to that also loved John Prine, it seemed like the big connecting point for us all. Uh,
Right.
that he just had that he was able to like reach out and grab you with lyrics. If you weren't paying attention, you were like, "What did he just say?" Like, what a wild man! Heck yeah! Let me hear some more. Uh,
Yeah.
and I think that's what we all loved about it. Like, it gave you this like creative ammunition where you're like, "Oh dang,
Yeah.
we can say stuff like that. That's all right." Yeah.
Yeah. I tell people like a lot of the issues people have is that they feel um alone with what they deal with. So,
Absolutely.
you know, that's the same type of thing there where, okay, I can do that because somebody else is doing that type of thing. I don't have to be afraid to do it.
Yeah, and that's and that's the hardest part of getting out. And you're not selfish or anything for thinking you're alone in something because like it happens. It's something that
Hmm.
fine. We are supremely human, and we're soft, and we're mushy, and we break so easily in so many ways. Like we all have things that we have to work through. It doesn't make you weak. Like you prove that you're strong to yourself by working through those things, but it's they're all hurdles you have to get over. It's a process. It's like just like anything is a process. Finding a job, writing a song, learning to ride a bike, like working through stuff mentally. And like
Yeah.
that like that, and it's cool like to go back to the outlet thing, and like the whole songwriting process is like that is an outlet for people. I highly recommend it. Like
Yeah.
if it's writing or drawing or acting or like dancing or doing yoga, fitness, like there's so many outlets out there, and like they all create like a specific chemical concoction within you that helps you cope. uh
Yeah.
and I say that just having music is the proof on my end.
Yeah. And Quebec Homestead, his songs are on iTunes and Spotify. You can find them there.
Absolutely, and everywhere you can illegally download music. Um, I've said that joke for 10 years now, and I just can't stop.
Yeah.
It's one of my best bad jokes.
Yeah. 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 And Quebec also said sorry for your loss as well. Um,
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that.
yeah, and I kind of want to know when you're talking about going through the process and stuff, and we were talking earlier about it being therapeutic. To me, it seemed like the song "Tragedy" is about the end of a relationship.
What's funny about that is so tragedy. When I wrote it, it was actually supposed to be like a prequel to the first single off the Things I Need to Say record, which is Burn This House Down. Uh,
Hmm.
I was revisiting. Someone wanted to listen to that song, and for some reason wanted to do it in front of me, which I'm like, it's flattering, but like I don't really want to watch you
Right,
listen to me. Like that'd be
right,
a weird kind of a weird fetish that it's not
right.
mine. Uh, but the but it, and as I was listening to it, I was like, oh, this is kind of it would be and we had just been discussing. I'm forgetting what the like storyline pieces as far as like structured album goes, and I was like, it would be cool to kind of like revisit this as a prequel. So tragedy kind of started as that as like the tragedy and everything that led up to the inevitable end of the relationship, which then resulted in the metaphor of needing to burn the house down and move on, starting from ash.
Hmm.
But I think that as soon as I got done with tragedy, I was like, man, this is kind of just a statement in itself. uh like the course is is this the way it is this the way it ends, and there's no happy ending to that song. Like that song
Right.
is open ended, in the sense that like it leaves you with that question of like, is this the way it is this the way it ends? Like we have complete control over that. But tragedy does happen. It's a natural occurring thing. Like that's why the word exists. um Someone needed to define it because it happens so often. uh,
Yeah.
that but it is like that's what I kind of liked about that song is that it's dark and it's realistic, but it also leaves an option. Like, is this the way it is? Is this the way it ends? Is it
Right.
a tragedy? Like it's almost not stating like, oh, it's, oh, what a tragedy is, like, you know, something that could be at the beginning of like a Shakespeare deal and then lead into something else that doesn't isn't actually a tragedy.
Right.
But it kind of plays into whole, I guess, making things up as I go deal. It's real in the sense, but like, you know, this is a fact. This is something that occurs. It's like, but even with the tragedy, it's like it's not what has happened. Um, I think in any situation, it's always like how we deal with it too.
Right. And the
But yeah,
perspective on it too.
yeah, absolutely. That song is just like it's. I was so impressed with what it was when it was finished. I think I didn't expect it. I almost felt like I hadn't finished it when it was done, and then I realized that I just created like a definitive tragedy piece. Almost like
Right.
if I made a video for this, it would just be like, you know, the red curtain opening up and people acting out the scenes, and that would be like that is a tragedy, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, when you go out there to play, because I only played, I mean, doing karaoke is one thing, but I only played in front of people a couple times, and it's weird, like when you capture like a lot of people's attention uh on when you're singing a song, like when you have the whole crowd's attention, like not when some people are listening and talking or whatever, but when you have everybody's attention, there's like a weird energy, and I don't know how to describe it, but I'm sure you feel the same thing when you're up there. It's just this weird energy between the crowd and you up there singing.
Yeah, I think it's almost it's always described as, and I think this really does do it justice. Is like my dad, the first time he came to see me, um, he was the first one to ever point it out to me, and it's like it's always the point that, you know, like, you know, in the show when like they've given you the reins, so like, all right, we trust you now, like guide us
Right.
through this performance. uh and then it's like it's dad always put, he was like, man, it was so quiet you could hear a pin drop.
Yeah.
You know, it's like
Yeah.
one of those things. That's how you know when, like, because you'll see artists get up on stage and the crowd's like still kind of talking. You can hear people in the background, but you know you got them when like you're in between notes, like you'll be playing your guitar, you're in between an upstrum, and there's that
Hmm.
silence of like just something ringing out, and there's nothing else beyond it. Like it can almost find the back of the room because it's not being disrupted by other words or like things popping up and blocking it. Like you
Yeah.
literally, it almost like comes out of the guitar, hits the back wall, and you know, it's like one of those things. It is cool. It is an energy though. It's a rush too, and
Right.
that's what you're feeling is like you realize that like you've done something, and you got to
Yeah.
continue to do that. Um, and that's when I think a lot of people can kind of like fall off the unicycle is they feel too much pressure, but like there's really
Right.
no pressure. All you have to continue doing is what you did in the first place.
Right.
Uh,
Right.
which is always the easiest part is like, especially if you don't know how you got there, just continue to not know how you got there and keep doing what you're doing.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. And
Because it's at that point, it's not about you; it's about the crowd. Like,
yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Exactly. That same thing that happens on YouTube when you find something that works, you
Oh
stick
yeah,
with it and all that stuff.
oh yeah.
Um, and on Van Life Mode, they got you on Spotify, and they're gonna listen later. So
Heck
so
yeah!
good.
Thank you so much. I hope you
Uh,
like it.
yeah. And you were saying you like to have when you're authentic with what you do, your fans connect with you, and they they feel like friends and family after a while, and not just a fan of your music. And
Yeah,
I mean, how since you've been doing this so long now, how is that? How have you noticed that over your career of people that are inauthentic with what they do, and what has happened, because you can only play somebody so long, when you're talking about authenticity.
Yeah. I think with that, it's like the character. You just see the character change, and I mean that in so many ways, like from the appearance to like the way that they carry themselves to the way that they talk, and it's kind of like as a person who just like is who he is, which I like. There's a lot of people who don't know who they are, and it's
Mhm.
that's I think a if not all, a majority of figuring out your life path is literally figuring out who you are and becoming okay with that person. And a lot of those people who switch that up don't have that. And it's
Right.
at the same time, it's kind of sad to watch, but it's also like, not to be cruel, but it is pretty entertaining to watch
Right.
someone go from like a dude who's wearing urban attire to like claiming he's from Texas and wearing a cowboy hat and Wranglers. Uh,
Yeah.
it's a pretty fun transfer. It's like we've all done that, man. Like
Right.
I think I wore FUBU in middle school and stuff
Yeah.
like that. I went through a skateboard phase, like, but I was like 14.
Right.
Like
Yeah.
when you see a 34-year-old doing it, it's slightly different.
Right. When you're
And
14,
especially
you're trying to figure out what fits you, you know.
exactly. And you're also like it's tough, man. Being a teenager, like you were presented with a lot of chemical walls that you have to scale.
Yeah.
And you
Yeah.
don't know, like everyone knows what you're going through, but it's different for everybody, so no one can explain it and you're not willing to listen because you're
Oh
14.
yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Because you know
I never understood
everything.
that till yeah, I never understood what my dad meant when he said that when I was younger till I got older, and I'm like, oh, I see what he's saying now.
Yeah, it's so funny too. We always be like, "Oh, I'm never gonna agree with you," and it's the same life cliche over and over again on everyone's path. It was like, dang it, they were all right, and I'm here admitting it
Yeah.
proudly. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah,
Thomas
I think
Jordan or Jinko jeans.
I,
JNCO jeans.
yes, Jinko, exactly. Those are like the skater days. It was like Jinkos and Etnies, or Jinkos and Vans, or like that's
Yeah.
hilarious. Exactly, though. Thank you
Yeah.
for that example. That was perfect.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just it's sad in a way, but like it is super fun to watch, especially when you know the person and they're like it's tough in an entertainment town. Like the fans are almost like I'm better friends with them than I am a lot of the musicians that I met in Nashville and stuff. There's a lot of those people that I am close with, and I love them, and we'll always be friends because we're very similar people. We do things for similar reasons. Like this is a passionate drive for us. Like we didn't come to town to make millions of dollars. We came to town realistically to like meet each
Mhm.
other and grow as artists. But then there's those other people that they came to town and they dropped that 4-letter F word, if you know what I
Yeah.
mean. Fame.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like it's fame is I was trying to describe it in a text to my buddy. It's like no offense if you want to be famous, but my opinion of fame is it's something that an insecure type person would seek because they've mislabeled success.
Right.
Because success can be like such a small thing because it's literally internally defined. Like if my goal was to take out the trash right now and I did it, I would be successful
Right.
because I accomplished something that I set out to do.
Yeah.
But being famous and coming to a town like LA or Nashville or New York or Seattle or whatever, and really Atlanta is another great example, and being like, I'm
Yeah.
here to be famous. Like a lot of people who have been in the industry a long time are either A, going to try to find some way to take advantage of you, or B, laugh and turn and continue to drink their drink. Uh,
Yeah.
because it's just unrealistic, man. Like if you're doing what you love, you've already taken a step that a lot of people don't ever take in their life. And a lot of people have walked up to me and told me stories of regret of I had a guy once, great example. He walked up to me after a show in Nashville. I got off stage and he was like, "Man, Just keep doing it. And I was like, I will, man. Thank you. And he goes, no, I mean, like, don't do what I did. And I was like, all right, this guy's baiting me. Like, I got to ask him what his story is.
Hmm.
He was
Right,
like,
right.
I got to the Memphis Bridge for after driving like 10 hours. I think he's from Florida or something. And he said I got scared and I turned around and I didn't come back for 12 years. He was like, I've regretted it every day since. And I was like, I couldn't imagine getting to the Memphis Bridge, driving all the way from Texas and being like, man, I can't do this, and turning around and driving like 11 hours back to San Antonio. Like it never occurred to me. Like I was lucky enough to either be ignorant or oblivious enough to keep like trudging forward. But label it what you want. I literally, I found something that I loved, and I was just gonna try to find some way to keep doing it, and I'm really lucky with that. But it is interesting to watch people chase that 4-letter F word.
Hmm.
Uh, and it's sad to watch a lot of people. I've seen some people achieve it, but the thing is, it's like there's more longevity to finding it the way. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong, but like I really enjoy. I've enjoyed my path, like every step of the way.
Right,
It takes time and it's hard work. But I couldn't and wouldn't change a thing even if I could.
right.
Uh, but
And you
it
be
is
more in
interesting.
control of it too, yourself
Oh,
too.
oh, absolutely, man. There's really no one telling me what to do in the sense is like I got friends that sign label deals, and one buddy walked into my house one day and he goes, dude, don't ever do it, man. And I was like, yeah, man, I mean that's why I've never done it. And he was like, no. He was like, do you know what the label has done for me since I signed the deal? He was like, do you know what has changed for me since I signed my label deal? That's how he worded it. And I go, no, what? He said, nothing. I'm still doing everything. Like I'm
Wow.
sending out like booking emails. I'm doing all my own
Right.
flyers. Like they're not doing anything. I was like,
Wow.
the dynamic has changed, and you have to be on top of that, like ever changing dynamic. Like it's a
Yeah.
digital age. Like we can reach India, Brazil, like England, like anywhere we want with our music these days because the digital outlet provides us with that.
Yeah.
Are musicians and writers and like session players making less money and stuff because of this digital trend? Like, yeah, but like I mean that sucks. I hate it. I'm so sorry, but at the same time, like I wasn't doing this in the 90s, so like
Yeah.
I don't understand the transfer. For me it's kind of always been like this. Like if anything,
Yeah.
you're just bragging to me that you used to make more money and I have to listen to it.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
I was like that's
Yeah.
great for you. Like maybe you should have invested it better and then we wouldn't have this conversation.
Right.
uh but
Right.
like it's whether we're getting like 0.00003 cents per spin, someone is finding your music, and I think that's like
Yeah.
the coolest gift ever. Like you've given me the outlet of like I could have never gotten there without that. Like I wouldn't know how to do that. What am I just gonna
Yeah.
put that in the mail and hope it gets there?
Yeah. Exactly. Exactly. Well, that used to be how it was. If you wanted to get some new artists and new music, you used to have to send off for those CD clubs.
Oh,
12,
absolutely.
12 CDs for a penny or whatever, and then hope you get lucky finding some good music.
Yeah, yeah, and it's just like I think this is cool. Like DJs and like platforms like this. This is awesome. Like this is we're just like chilling and talking.
Yeah.
Like I don't have to drive to you. You don't have to drive to me. Not that I would be opposed to that, but like
Right.
there's so many. It is endless possibilities right
Yeah.
now, and
Yeah.
to sit there and complain about it is I mean we all do it, and it might be part of your process, but complain
Right.
about it and then be a part of it because you can work with it.
Well, I was talking yesterday um, with a guy that's an actor, and who knows what kind of you know renaissance of art and music and all that stuff that's going to come out of people being forced to happen to be creative. You're locked inside, can't do nothing. You're forced to be creative. So who knows what's going to come out of this?
Oh, absolutely. I think this is such a good, like, if you have not been utilizing this time to knock stuff out like that, because this is a time where, like, you were forced out of your job, you were forced,
Mm,
out of your home or back into your parents' house if you were lucky enough. Like, this is a good time. You have almost too much time to work on the things that you haven't had time to work on. So if you're not working on them, like,
yeah,
you're lit. I mean, you have to use this to your advantage. Like, it is what it is at this point. Like, make it, going back to making things up as I go. This is the great example. We have no control over this. Like,
yeah,
no one wanted it, but we can't do anything about it. So we might as well do something with it.
yeah, yeah. And being unsure about things and the way things go is kind of how it is in a creative career too. So a lot of people that are creative right now are like, oh well, I guess I'll figure something out as it comes along, for
Oh
sure.
yeah, and high pressure stakes moments like this for a lot of people, like, how am I going to make $1? How am I going to do this? Like, for creative people, it, like, kind of, it opens a new door for them because they
Hmm.
have to come up with something to survive.
Yeah,
And it's really cool. Like, we'll get a lot of great art from that. Like, we already have, like, the people trapped at home that were, like, doing mock-ups of those old paintings, like posing with
yeah,
their family and stuff. Like, there's already been so much cool stuff. It's like, as far as making lemonade goes, like, that's the best example. I'm glad y'all talked about. I talk about that with my friends all the time too. I was like,
yeah,
I called a buddy the other day. I'm like, hey, what are you doing right now? They're like, oh, I'm looking for something to do. I was like, dude, create, create, create. Like, you have so much time. Like, who knows how
yeah.
long this is gonna last?
Well, not only that, you have an audience that's looking for stuff too, because you're probably out of Netflix and everything else by now if that's what
Oh,
you want.
absolutely. They need a break. They need to switch it up. They need different platforms. You're absolutely right. Yeah. It's
Yeah,
as far as being a crazy time, it's also like a really cool possibility time too, which is nice to be able to say.
yeah, it really is, and like um, just being able to start to do this because this is, the third attempt at me doing a podcast and finally having some success at it and all that kind of stuff. And I tried before iTunes was out. Like I used to do a little radio show and do music with it in between and got that sent out to stations. And I always wondered how it is to be an artist and like hear your music played on the radio. Like, what was the first time like that you heard that?
It was, I think the first time for me was actually at WSM in Nashville, which is huge because that's just a legendary station. And it's weird, man. Like, it's cool. It's like a really, and I was in the studio, of course. Like, I kept my headphones on, and they were like,
Right,
"What do you?" They want to talk to you. The DJs want to
right,
talk to
right,
you. I'm
right,
like, just like, give me a second. Like, this is big for me. It's like, it's
right.
WSM, the legend. Like, that's my voice.
Yeah,
It's like, let me process. But it was kind of one of those things. I got to enjoy it for as long as I needed to, and then it was back to business, and that was good for me because I think it almost it was a professionalism thing that I learned straight out the gate because they were treating me like that. They weren't giving me the moment.
hmm,
Almost, they were treating me like an artist who had already had that moment, and I
right,
didn't want to lose that respect. So for me, it was kind of cool. It was, I got a certain enlightenment from it in the sense that I was like, this is going to happen again. So,
right.
let's treat it like it's going to happen again. It was cool though. Like, it's always weird, and especially to get a message. Like, the coolest thing is when you don't know it's happening somewhere in the world and someone messages you. They're like, did you pitch your song to so and so radio station? I was like, I mean, I don't know. I hired a guy for that. I was like, did you just hear
Right,
my song? And they were like, yeah. And iTunes is cool because iTunes and Shazam are like partnered together. So when you get your iTunes artist report, you see how many times people have Shazammed your songs, which is cool.
right.
Like,
That's
that's
really
on.
cool. I mean, they want to know what it is when they hear it.
Exactly. Like, that's like my latest single, "Good Old Days," my last artist report I got back, it had 21 Shazams, which I was like,
Yeah.
within like a couple weeks, I was like, "Oh, that's cool. Where the heck are they hearing it?" You know,
Right.
it's like you always wonder, but that's cool. Because that leads to like, it's like, oh my god, I heard this song. Like, maybe I get a new fan slash friend or something that I can uh see at a show someday whenever we have shows again.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, well, I normally go for an hour. We're a little over an hour right now. But I'd love to have you back when the album comes out in January. What's the album called?
It's going to be called Things to Come.
All right, things to come. All right. Yeah, I listened to some songs off that, and it's gonna be a pretty good album. So
Dude,
you guys
thanks,
should
man.
definitely
Yeah.
check it out.
Yeah, absolutely. I appreciate you having me on, and I'll definitely come back. And there's going to be a third single coming out here within the next month and a half too, and that one's called Lillian. So
Awesome.
y'all look out for
Awesome.
that. Yeah.
Heck yeah, man. Heck yeah. But yeah, I'll have you back on again. And guys, till next time, stop waiting for life to happen and make it happen. Later, guys.